Go.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of e-commerce growth show. And today I have the honor to have with me Kelly Vaughn, all the way from Michigan. Yeah,
Yeah, this week I am in Michigan.
excellent. So today we're gonna speak about what should e-commerce companies do right now in this high season about e-commerce. And Kelly, she's the CEO and founder of the Tap Room. She gets some nice stories to share with us today about how to improve your Shopify store and how to make use of the conversion rate optimization insights that she got throughout the year. So, Kelly, at the beginning, let us understand how you've got into the space of e-commerce optimization at the very beginning.
Yeah, so I kind of fell into it. It was never intentional. To back way up, I started teaching myself how to code when I was 11 years old. So very young. I started freelancing when I was 14. My first freelance gig, I got paid a t-shirt. Not really a great deal. Thankfully, paid a little bit more now. But I freelanced all through undergrad and grad school, and I was looking for additional work to do on the side, and I actually came across a tweet from somebody else that was another freelancer saying, "I have too much work, I need some help." And naturally, I replied because I'm a poor college student saying, "Help me, I'm poor." And, I want to do it. And so he actually hooked me up with some WordPress projects at first, and then he sent me over a Shopify store to work on. And it was my first kind of taste of anything that was e-commerce. And this was 2014. And so I just immediately fell in love with Shopify, with building on Shopify, with the idea that you can immediately see the kind of impacts that you make on stores when you're making kind of these CRO changes and things like that. And it just kind of grew from there. And I started specializing in Shopify only in 2015. And so I've been in the e-commerce space since for a little over 6 years now. And this is all I do. So the Tap Room is now a team of 13, and we focus on custom development solutions for high growth businesses on Shopify Plus. So we spend a lot of time in the CRO space at this point.
Yeah, excellent. So, what do you love about CRO we got? The idea that you can see instant changes and you can see the impact of those changes. But uh, if you can tell us how do you feel the transition? Because you got already 6 years in this space. How do you see the e-commerce adopting this new discipline at some point because it's not new anymore?
Yeah, it's been an interesting transition to see how CRO has evolved over time and what we really focus on. Really, for example, back in 2014, there were plenty of people using their mobile devices, but it's not like what you see today when over 60% of your customers are shopping on a mobile device. So you're working on optimizing more for mobile these days than you would originally, just for making sure your or your site is responsive. Like I still remember the days when Shopify had two separate themes, one for desktop and one for mobile, which was thankfully a thing of the past now. So yeah, I mean, that's one of the joys of working in CRO is that I'm constantly learning something new, and I'm having to adapt my practices, and I'm having to adapt the changes that I'm making to stores based on trends in the space. I think another really great example is for SEO, which does SEO and CRO definitely kind of merge at some point. With SEO, you're talking more long form, long tail keywords. So people are doing more voice searches now, like on Siri or Alexa or Hey Google. And so when you're looking at doing the optimization on the messaging side for CRO, you're thinking of these long tail keywords, and that's the kind of thing that you have to actually include on the store now, instead of just like keyword plugging here and there. It's a very
Yeah,
different kind of approach
activity.
you take to it. Yeah.
So about the conversion killers from your experience so far, what are some low-hanging fruits or things that companies could fix as they still have time until the high season births?
Yeah, so I generally, like, once we get to this point where it's the end of October and people are already holiday shopping. Amazon Prime Day happened 2.5 weeks or a week and a half ago. it was October 13th and 14th.
Yeah.
So the holiday shopping season is officially started. And at this point, you're just like, all right, what can I do now to actually make these changes? So I usually focus on three primary areas. First is going to be mobile, which I already touched on, and definitely go into more detail there. Second is going to be site speed. How fast is your site actually running? And third is your messaging. How are you actually talking or communicating to your customers on the site across your emails, like from homepage all the way through checkout? Are questions being answered? Are you able to adequately explain your products succinctly and get the point across and really entice somebody to actually buy? So these are the three areas that I'd really focus on now, because you can actually have some really easy, low-hanging fruit, easy actions that you can take today.
And about the site speed, have you seen there are all sorts of statistics like 1 second means 7%, whatever.
Yeah,
So,
I see, like, I forget the exact statistic, but like some ridiculous number of customers abandon the site if it takes longer than 3 seconds to load, which
mhm.
in the e-commerce space, that's terrifying, because your online store is not a standard blog or anything like that. You've got a lot more going on there. And so
Yeah.
naturally it's going to take longer to load, which is why I like to remind my clients that you have two different kind of speed scores you're looking at. One is the actual speed score. So this is going to be using like Google Page Speed Insights or Lighthouse to actually run the speed test. And the second is your perceived speed score. And this is going to be, what does it feel like the site is actually running? Like, how fast does the site feel, not actually looking at the numbers? And they're often quite different. And I think a really good example is when you're running a test on Lighthouse, for example, for mobile, it's looking at a mid-range device on a generally slowish connection. So we're talking like a Moto G4 on a 3G connection. And that makes me laugh because 3G not that long ago was the fastest we had available, but
Yeah.
here we are now. Um, but you might see, like, if according to that store or that score, the time to actual interactive, it'll say it's going to be like 25 seconds when you're immediately interacting with your store 3-5 seconds in. So I like to say take those scores with a grain of salt, but really focus on what that perceived speed looks like. And so what can you do to increase that perceived speed? And that's kind of the actions that we're looking at taking now. A good example of that would be lazy loading your images. So not loading all of your images up front. So as you scroll down your website, it's going to load the images as you're scrolling. A lot of themes have this built in already. There are also, I think there are probably apps in the App Store that do that, or you can ask a developer to set up your images to load lazy. Let's see, what's another example of that? Unless you have a specific question you want to ask.
No. I was interested about this. How fast can you apply this optimization so that your site could load faster? And I've seen your case study around the customer that you've helped. If you can tell us more about your experience, how long does such an endeavor take usually, if you're not under the pressure of the holidays, let's say?
If you're doing like a full speed analysis and cleanup, I mean,
Yeah.
we can take 4 to 6 weeks to like fully analyze and implement the changes. Obviously, we don't have 4 to 6 weeks to actually make these changes. So a really great place to start that anybody can do is go look at how many apps you have installed. You'd be surprised. I hit a new record yesterday in talking to a client. They had 65 apps installed on their store. Every time you install another app, there are two different kinds of apps you're looking at on Shopify. Some just only impact the backend. So let's say like a MetaFields app, for example, or like a fulfillment app that syncs your fulfillment with your 3PL, Shopify with your 3PL. But then you have plenty of apps that actually interact with the front end of your site. These are going to be things like a product options app, reviews apps, cross-sell apps. I mean, there are tons of them. But
Yeah.
every single time you add one of these apps to your store, it's going to slow down the store. And we often forget that when we uninstall apps, that code can get left behind and the code can actually stay in your theme, even though you're no longer using the app, which means you're loading scripts that you're not actually using. And those are the types of things that you can do now to decrease your page, the speed on your site. One thing that you can do is if you're going to be uninstalling an app that you realize you're not using and you just want to speed up your site, send an email to the app support team and ask them, is there going to be any code left in my theme? And if so, can you help me remove it? It's
Yeah,
kind of their job to help you fully uninstall the app if they're already adding something into your theme.
excellent. So regarding you've said that there are three aspects to look at in order to improve conversions, and you had the speed optimization, and you also had the messaging. What about the messaging? What do you feel it's how can you improve? How do you approach the messaging uh, on an e-commerce website? Because there are various best practices. Also, you can do research. You can serve your visitors. What's your take on this?
Yeah. So there are a few areas that I immediately look at. Keep in mind what pages you're actually advertising. So if you're running Google ads or social media ads, wherever, you're often marketing like a specific product, for example, or you could just be marketing your homepage. The reason why I'm saying this is that whatever page your customers are landing on, that's going to be the first taste they get of your company. The first taste they're going to see, like, what does this business actually mean? And so one of the things that I often see missing, specifically on product pages, because a lot of ads serve you straight to a product page, there's no actual company information on the product page. You're only talking about the product. And if customers don't know who you are as a business, they're required to navigate away from that product page to learn who you are.
Yeah,
So I recommend adding some information on your product page about the company itself. Like, who are you? Why should I be buying from you? Why should I trust you? Another area on the product page that's often forgotten is shipping. So, or shipping and returns, actually. So you're wanting to build
hmm,
trust as quickly as possible. We often wait until we hit either the cart or most commonly the checkout to actually tell you how much shipping is going to cost. And that is the number one reason why customers abandon their cart, is because they did not expect that they were going to have to pay additional for shipping. Make that crystal clear upfront on your product page how much shipping is going to cost, and also what your returns policy is. If you have free returns within 30 days, scream that from the rooftops, because that is something that's really going to build that trust with new customers.
yeah,
Because it's a risk. If they never purchased from you before, they need a reason to know, like, what if this doesn't work out? Nobody wants to find out they purchased something that doesn't work out and then they're kind of stuck with it. So
yeah. Regarding the methodology that you are using, do you use any kind of framework to optimize to optimize the e-commerce stores, or you have your own methodology that you developed throughout the years?
I think I've just kind of developed my own over the years. Just kind of what kinds of things I should be looking for. I will say I do get a lot of my research and ideas from Baymard Institute, which is a really,
Mhm.
really, really great resource, and they just study the user experience of all kinds of e-commerce stores or e-commerce businesses, and teach you the best practices. So that's really taught me, especially as things kind of change and evolve over time, what you really need to be looking at. But basically, the more stores I look at, the more I can immediately identify areas of opportunity.
Yeah. In terms of the um, unique value proposition, so I've seen that there are a lot of companies that are somehow disregarding this, and the statistics are telling us that a customer is four times less open to buy from an unknown retailer than it is to buy from Amazon or eBay or whatever big brand that you see over there. What's your, let's say, suggestion for crafting a better unique value proposition for e-commerce managers or founders?
Everything goes back to trust. And you can do a few things on the site. First off, of course, I already mentioned educating the customer about the business and why they should trust you. Second, add product reviews. People trust other people they don't know just because they see, like, oh, this gets 5-star rating for 36 reviews, so people really like this. I had a third one. Oh, social proof in general. So sharing Instagram photos of other people with your products, for example. Influencers, like, these are the types of things that if customers see other people with your products, they're more likely to trust that they can buy it from you. I think a lot of people lose out to, say, Amazon, like a marketplace like that, again, because you trust that you can handle the returns process through Amazon pretty easily. Make your customer service process really seamless on your website. If you can offer chat, that's a really, really great way to answer any like last minute questions that could be a purchase decision, and make sure you have a really strong FAQs page as well. That's outlining, again, the same kind of things. What's your shipping and returns policy? My item arrived damaged. What can I do? I bought the wrong size. How can I exchange it? Things like that. Make sure all those questions are answered up front, so your customers are not having to reach out to you to ask those questions. And make sure you're responding as quickly as you can when these inquiries come in, because that's one of the things about Amazon, is that you can get on the phone with them and discuss an issue, or you can get on chat and discuss an issue and resolve the issue very quickly.
Yeah, in in this approach to improve things, how do you prioritize things? So how do you decide, okay, for this e-commerce, I think the best outcome it would be if we change the messaging or improve the site speed, or how do you understand what to do first? Because I can bet that many e-commerce companies lack on many aspects, but how do you choose the first ones to tackle?
Yeah, that's definitely the toughest when you have so many things you want to fix at once. Where do you begin? So I usually begin with the most obvious issues. If there is an issue that's actually preventing people from being able to check out or successfully place an order, of course, that's where you're going to want to start. You're going to want to remove any friction from the buying process
Mhm.
first and foremost. So you have your customer support questions that have come in, all those inquiries. Look through those first and see what common questions are being asked. That will kind of give you a general idea of where the holes currently exist in the user flow from homepage through checkout. So I would start there. It's pretty easy to update your product messaging, like update your product descriptions and things like that, to make it a little bit more enticing to actually buy the product. And then I would usually go from there and start digging into the site speed. Site speed takes a little bit more work on the technical side of things to really understand where you're falling short and why your page speed might be so slow. So it's a lot easier for you to
Mhm.
quickly address the messaging issues. And the third thing that we haven't actually talked about too much yet here is mobile. We tend to run our businesses from a desktop. We tend to forget what our site even looks like on mobile, because
Yeah.
we don't shop on our own site. So I highly recommend, this is something you can do today. Go on your website on your phone and browse through it from homepage all the way to checkout, place an order. See, your business, so you're not going to be able to see the immediate kind of like areas of confusion that a customer might see, but you're likely going to see something, be like, oh, that kind of function's kind of funny, or this text is really small, or there are a lot of little things that you can find just from you browsing your own store on your phone. So I recommend starting there.
Excellent. I also have something to add here, Kelly. I do appreciate it's called the persuasion slide. We got here Roger Dooley from Neuroscience Marketing as a guest, and I was actually using his persuasion slide back in 2010 when I had my first e-commerce company, and I think that this is such a simple way to understand what you can do, and how you can understand what kind of fixes do you have. And you've started with the first things, which are the frictions in his approach on the persuasion slide. The frictions are the difficulties which are real or perceived by your customers, and this is actually the friction that the someone that should go on a slide could have, right? And unless you let's say get rid of those frictions, there's no use to push more traffic on your website once if your website is not working properly, or if it's let's say rejecting customers by, I don't know, not having a clear return policies or whatever things that
Mhm.
could be perceived as frictions. Also, he's talking about the motivation that you can provide, which can be conscious or unconscious, which are things that are your incentives, like things that you add on. It's uh, last on the stock, let's say, or this is you get 30 days money back guarantee, All these things are motivations that you provide. But once what I've seen is this phenomenon of a lot of e-commerce marketeers are pushing the pedal right now on discounts and so on, while they are forgetting that if the customers don't have their own initial motivation, which is in the persuasion slide, is the gravity, right? The people are simply falling on your slide because they want your product, the product that you sell. So unless you clearly understand their initial motivation, and if you are not emphasizing how your products are solving the pains, are solving the issues that the customers have, there is no use to push down the pedal of discounts, because that means you will waste a lot of margin first, and second, you're not going to let's say uh, compensate all this effort, because I've went through a lot of Black Friday events with a lot of our customers who they've been hyped about, wow, look at the sales, but hey, look at the margin because it's always like this. So I think they should be conscious about the uh, let's say pinpointing the fact that customers are more willing to buy anyways in this season, and maybe 7% discount could do the same as 9% discount or whatever. It's up to you to identify where is uh, the the level of discount that will make your customers buy. But I think this is an aspect worth exploring, because in this overhyped event, you might want to look at the revenue, but profit is the one that solves all the problems
Yeah.
for an e-commerce.
That's a really good point, and I love that you pointed that out, because you're absolutely right in that a lot of customers are going to buy anyway, and they didn't actually need the discount code to convince them to actually make that purchase, and you just lost money that you would have gotten paid anyway just because you were offering that discount. It's also important to remember there are other types of deals that you can offer that don't actually involve discounting your products. A really great one is a free gift with the purchase, because you might have like extra inventory of something that's
Yeah,
super cheap for you to make, and you can just kind of throw it in with your order. For example, if you're selling like lingerie, you can throw in a free delicates bag alongside it so you can easily wash it. That bag is super cheap to make.
yeah, I love that, and it's there are things that are so overlooked, and I think it's a matter of I think that the bias that we have as business oriented people is that we are using reason to understand what we should be doing to incentivize the customers to buy, and then we do this analysis, if we tweak the price by this much, we'll get that, and so on. But at the end of the day, customers are, as we are, on many aspects, irrational, and there are
Yep.
simply this urge to buy, not to lose the moment and to get this, I don't know, pair of shoes or whatever you want to buy. Anyways, the consumption levels are up anyways, and I think another important aspect is the fact that many e-commerce companies are forgetting that Black Friday is mostly uh, a reward of the effort that you put in before the Black Friday by doing remarketing and securing a healthy relationship with your former customers, because those are the first usual suspects, because if they
Exactly.
bought again, then they are more willing to buy again as well. And we have this privilege in revealing our product. We have these clusters of cohorts, and we can see data from 700 retailers, and we can see how cohorts of customers are coming back or are not coming back after the pandemic, after the first purchase, or if the first purchase was on Black Friday, for instance. And the cohort of Black Friday is not always the most valuable, and that's why that's because they are not there for the product or for you or for your unique value prop, but it was there for your discount.
Do it for the
And
deal. Exactly. I always recommend, especially for your email marketing, is create a unique segment for your customers who sign up for your emails during your Black Friday sales. Because as you said, they are not the same as your standard customers. Some of them will absolutely come back again. They'll absolutely love the product and they'll want to come back and buy again. But a lot of them, as you said, they're one-time buyers. They're only there for a discount. They're not really going to be your best loyal customers.
yeah, So, Kelly, what next? What else? What kind of other conversion killers you've identified and you wanna uh, emphasize during our conversation?
Let's talk a little bit deeper about messaging because I can do
Yeah.
literally an hour on just messaging. So let's talk about those product descriptions a little bit in more detail. There's a lot of crossover and everything that I'm going to talk about with SEO because I cannot separate the two of them. Um, a lot of people don't put a lot of thought into their product descriptions, especially if you're selling a lot of the same product or like the same product in multiple colors that are separated by a unique SKU. You really do need to spend time really thinking about that product description and going into detail about the product itself and adding your brand voice to it. It should be fun. It should match everything. It should not just be like bullet points, for example. This is really good for SEO. This is really good for helping your products get picked up on Google and be found because you're adding those long tail keywords in there. So I highly recommend. I know there are only so many ways you can describe a certain item, but this is also a really good opportunity to work with a copywriter who is much more experienced with being able to explain the same thing 8 different ways.
Yeah. And regarding the product descriptions, uh, do you think there are there is a standard number of characters or words that you should put in, or is all up to how complicated the product is? Because it's one thing to describe a nail, and it's another thing to describe a car wash or whatever.
Yeah, it definitely is going to vary from product to product. I try to recommend doing at least a paragraph followed by bullet points or 2 paragraphs, just however you would. Whatever makes the most sense for the product itself. Other
Yeah.
things to remember, if you're selling food or anything that can be consumed, make sure you're explaining what the ingredients are, if there are any kind of allergies in there, so people know upfront if they're going to be able, like, is this gluten free, for example. You want to make sure that is very crystal clear to all your customers. If you're selling apparel, make sure you're explaining in like a size chart of how that product is going to fit. If you can, try to get models of different sizes, modeling the clothes, so your customers can actually see what the product is going to look like on them in particular, instead of like one specific model used across your entire website. It's a bit of a brand inclusivity kind of thing, so it's great on that front, but it's also great for conversions because customers want to see people like them who wear the clothes. So it requires a little bit more work on the photography side, but it pays dividends.
Yeah, I love that. So, what about the let's say uh, imagery? So, what do you suggest to companies that are having are selling products where the images are let's say at least important?
Yeah. So first off, all of your images are important. No matter what you're selling, your images are very, very important. It's a good place to make sure all your images are the same aspect ratio. It makes it easier for the customers to see what they're looking at, and it provides some kind of sense of just being like formulaic as you're scrolling through the pages. If you're drop shipping items, if you're not selling your own items, it's really easy to jump and just use the stock photos that somebody else took. Don't do that. Take your own photos. If you don't actually have the items, I recommend, actually, if you're selling anything that's drop shipped, buy one of those items so you can actually take your own photos, because that does set you apart from everybody else. But there are also websites that you can use to generate sort of unique stock photos, different colors, different people holding the products, whatever it might be, to kind of help break up the monotony of every single product using the same, or every single business using the same stock photo from the same drop shipper.
Yeah, I do appreciate that. Have you noticed anything in particular going down the funnel that that should be taken care? Let's presume that the product page is is doing its job properly. Let's go to the cart page. What do you think should be taken into consideration over there?
A good place to start is, we're going right back to the shipping rates, because again, this should be communicated many times over. One of the easiest things that you can do is add a if you have a free shipping threshold, let's say items over $75 ship free. or orders over 75 ship free. Add that free shipping threshold directly to your cart, but do the math to see if I have $65 of worth of products in my cart, tell me I only have to add $10 more to get free shipping. Because if shipping costs me, let's say $7.95, it's only a $2 difference. I might as well just add another item to my cart to get free shipping. And then you've just increased your average order value as a result. There are apps that can do that for you. There are, like, you can have a developer do it. And I actually recently did a video, a live stream with Shopify on how to build your own free shipping threshold bar. So I don't know, maybe that's something that we can share at some point. I think it's on YouTube. It should be on YouTube.
Yeah.
So start there. Second, never, and this kind of applies to every single page on your website, never let a single page be a dead end. You should always have a call to action to continue shopping, no matter where you are. And your cart is no exception to that. Have some recommended products on there. Make it really easy for your customers to hit that free shipping threshold by recommending products that are automatically going to push them over that threshold. That's a really great place to start. You can also include things like your browsing history. So like if a customer viewed 5 different products, once they get to the product or the cart page, they can see those 5 products that they previously viewed that aren't in their cart and kind of, convince them to go ahead and add those items to their cart. Mainly the point being is that you don't want to create any kind of dead end for your customers to be like, well, I have to do all this work to go back to the collections page and then go back to the products and find something that I like. Make it really, really easy for them to add additional items to their cart.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. So we have a question here. If you could choose, would you sell a small variety of products and have more of a presentation site and great descriptions for those few products, or have more products and also have descriptions but not so great and focus on the e-commerce part of the website?
I am very much in the former camp. Always,
Mhm.
like, I would rather specialize and have fewer products that are really, really optimized and really marketed well than have just a marketplace of 2,000 different SKUs that don't really do much for the customer. You might have more pages picked up by Google because they have more SKUs, but if they're not optimized, they're not really enticing a customer to actually purchase them. And you often see this with stores, is they'll just try to sell everything. And it doesn't work. I mean, they might get
Yeah.
sales here and there, but you're not building that kind of brand loyalty because customers don't know what exactly, why do you exist? What are you selling? So by really specializing and selling that smaller variety of products, you're able to communicate a message saying, hey, this is who we are. This is the type of product we sell, and this is why you should buy from us.
Yeah, excellent. So I think this also has a lot to do with the fact that the generalist stores and the huge marketplaces are already there, and you should be very specific and be the specialist in something. So I think this has to is the same thing as you, if you would have to hire a lawyer, would you hire a lawyer that can handle anything, or a special lawyer which is treating, I don't know, it's specialized in, God forbid, divorce or anything like that, that it's
Exactly.
your own pain at that moment?
It's the same reason why, like, my company, we specialize in Shopify theme development, because we could build websites for WordPress, we could build blogs, we could build literally whatever if we wanted to. But if we're never specializing, we're never going to be recognized for doing something well. And so by specializing your products, you're able to do the same thing by saying, this is what we do well. And that's the goal. That's really the message you wanted to get across.
Yeah. So, how you come up with the tap room name for your agency?
So I was sitting at a McKellar bar in Copenhagen. As you know, most ideas come from alcohol.
Or
Um,
facilitated by alcohol?
yes. And I knew that I wanted to rebrand. So before I was running the tap room, I was just running under my own name, just Kelly Vaughn Creative. And I wanted to grow beyond just being me. I wanted to build a full agency. And so I'm sitting at a tap room, and my husband was like, this would kind of be a cool name for an agency because it's kind of the same kind of idea, lots of sharing of ideas, crafting websites if we want to get super creative. And so I'm like, I wonder if the domain is available. And it was for, I think, $2,000. And I'm like, I've had 3 drinks by now. I'm gonna go do it. And so I bought the domain.
Excellent. Yeah, I love this story. So yeah, regarding the names, I do appreciate creative names for companies, and I think that's another thing that many e-commerce companies are lacking on being creative and accessing the emotional part, because it's, for me at least, it's not going to be easy to forget your agency's name.
Yeah,
And that should happen with any e-commerce that it's out there, because it's not a matter of being better than Amazon or better than XYZ. It's a matter of being different, of being distinct, and so that the people can uh, let's say, have something to relate to. So, and I think
yeah,
that's where creativity steps in. And if you think about it, creativity is about mixing two opposite things, like getting things from a completely different domain and putting it over here. And that was happening with big brands like, I don't know, Google or Apple or whatever, Amazon, right?
yeah.
So it doesn't have to do with the specific name about
Yeah, it's important to remember your name needs to be memorable. It needs to be easy to spell. It needs to be easy to pronounce. Like these joggers that I'm wearing today, I actually can't pronounce the name of the company.
it.
I, the only reason why I own them is because they served me Facebook ads for like a month straight, and I finally caved and bought them. And they're the most comfortable joggers that I ever bought. But I don't know how to pronounce the company name, and so how am I going to tell my friends where to get it unless I literally type it out? So it's
Yeah.
those types of things. And also make sure your company name is easy to spell. And this one's kind of funny to me because I'm like, oh, the tap room, easy to spell, thetaproom.com. I get 2 things. Well, I get 3 things. One is the correct pronunciation and spelling of my company name. The second is putting a space between tap and room. And my third, my absolute favorite, which has actually come up more than once, is calling the tap room Theta Prum. Did not realize that anyone would ever think of that, but I guess that's my alter ego business is called Theta Prum. So make sure your company name is easy to spell.
Yeah, excellent. So going back to the conversion rate optimization. So Kelly, I've been in this industry for a lot of years. So we've started, by the way, with a bad name. We were called back in 2013 Marketizator. It was like Terminator, but on marketing. That was our idea back in 2011 when we bought the domain. Of course, we made some remarketing, and the emotional trigger was when we got a call from a prospect in the US, and they said something like Mark Hesitator, and that was it. So, however, we've been in this CRO space for a lot of years, and we've seen that after you fix, let's say, the website, after you come up with the user experience, there is a moment when you reach a plateau of how much you can optimize by doing tweaks, by doing A/B testing, and uh, you have you reach a level where you should personalize or let's say become relevant for any visitor. And we've seen that many companies are using CRO only to improve the conversion rate, while there are other aspects that matter more than conversion rate, because they're mainly the biggest companies in the retail are not having a 100% conversion rate,
Oh yeah.
but they have a fantastic customer retention rate and customer lifetime value, which is growing steadily, so that they are not financing the growth of Google or Facebook ads, and they have returning customers which love their products and their services, and that become the evangelists. And my question for you is, why do you think so few companies are focusing on the customer lifetime value at this moment? Because we've seen this happening. It's like that thing that everybody talks about it. Everybody wants to do it properly, but not too many are actually nailing down the CLV, and they are not optimizing the customer lifetime value.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think there's often this tendency to just focus on getting new customers. Like, who are the new people who are coming to my business? But you're by doing that, by focusing on all these new customers that are coming into your business, you're neglecting your existing customers, and your existing customers are your best referrals to find new customers, because they're going to be the ones who are actually spreading the word about your brand. So you really need to be nurturing those relationships with your existing customers. And personalization is a really great place to start. The other really great area to look at, and especially as we move into more of an internationalized kind of space, is
Yeah,
remembering cultural differences. So the way that you're going to convey a product's messaging to somebody in Asia is going to be different from how you're going to be conveying that same message in the States.
yeah,
And being able to personalize based on region is a really powerful tool. And this is something you can absolutely do. I mean, you can have multiple stores, multiple instances of your store, and that's probably going to be the easiest time to just like write completely new copy.
yeah,
But there are also tools you can use that are like actual A/B testing tools, where you can run a different experience for people who are based in a different geolocated area, and that's when you can change the imagery, you can change the copy. And this is where, like, if you run out of ideas of what you can test and how you can improve your site, if you feel like you've gotten to a point where like there's nowhere else that I can go, first of all, take a deep breath. I've never been there and I don't know what that's like.
yeah,
Second, now it's time to really dig into the details of who your customers are. Now that you've kind of gotten the low-hanging fruit out of the way, and you've optimized your store, you feel like you're getting plenty of good customers in. Now it's time to actually talk to your customers. Who are they? What are their interests? Where else are they buying? And use this data to inform your next decisions. There's always going to be something else you can do for your store. There's never going to be a point where you're just like, well, I'm done. This is it. I can just continue to just run smooth sailing at this point. There's always going to be areas of improvement, because we like culturally, we're constantly changing. Our focuses are changing. Our like what we actually want to purchase is really changing. I mean, take this pandemic, for example. Take how like I have not spent so much money on athleisure anytime before this year. As I'm wearing these joggers, I live in these things.
yeah,
So customer interest in what they're going to be buying, and what makes them feel safe and secure and happy is going to change over time. And you're always going to have an opportunity to change your messaging and talk to your customers and see, what are their joys, what are their fears, what are their interests, and continue to tweak your messaging and improve your store that way. There's always going to be something that you can do.
yeah. You're right about it. So, what do you use to benchmark the perceived site speed? Is it something that you do in moderated research, or something else is coming from Dragos?
Um, Perceived site speed. Well, I'm usually running a lighthouse test always, which of course gives you what Google
Yeah,
thinks your site speed is. I honestly I watch customers interact with the site using some kind of tool that lets you watch the customer experience, or asking like a friend to visit the website. And you can see the moment the site loads, first off, you can see as soon as they type in the URL on their phone, how long is it taking them to actually start browsing the website. That's your first key. That's going to be like the first idea of your perceived site speed there. And second, just as they're navigating the site, how long is it taking them to get to the collections page? How long is it taking them to get to a product page, to add that item to the cart, to reach checkout? Perception is going to vary from person to person. What I think is fast is going to be different from what you think is fast. And so that's an important thing to remember. But in talking these customer surveys, these conversations you have with your customers, they're going to give you some kind of indication as to whether or not the site is actually fast in their own eyes. And your mileage is going to vary from person to person. You might just experience somebody who's having a really bad day, who wants everything to load in less than a second, and in which case you might not make them too happy, but it is what it is.
yeah. So, Kelly, regarding the uh, customer retention, let's say, when we look at conversion rate optimization, we look at conversion rate, we have new customer acquisition rate, and we have customer retention rate, like returning customers that are buying again from a store. Do you have any ideas now that the coming season is here already for companies willing to treat the former customers better or differently, offering them a special treatment? What are your suggestions?
Yeah. So the first thing to do is if you're using like an email tool like Klaviyo, segment your audience based on number of orders and also customer lifetime value. How much money have they spent with you? And reward them. You can reward them in multiple ways. You can give them a discount code for their next order. You can give them first access to new items that are going to be released for the holiday season. But honestly, one of the best things that you can do is literally just send them a plain text email thanking them for being a customer and telling them you really appreciate their buying from you. And this is one of the things, like, we often forget that our customers are people and our customers want to feel like they're appreciated because they just spent
Yeah,
money on your website. You don't even have to give anything in return, anything promotional. You can literally just say thank you, and that really does go a long way. On my own store, whenever I send an email that's no promotions whatsoever, I just like, hey, I hope you're having a good day, and like send a GIF or something like that. Those emails tend to have my highest open rates, which is kind of
yeah.
interesting. Another thing that you can do, I'm going to remember it. I just slipped my head. So let's go to the next thing.
Okay. So regarding the let's say first three biggest mistakes that you've seen at e-commerce companies doing during this season, before the season and during the holiday season, which would those be from your perspective?
First one is treating all your customers equally. Your customers are, I know that sounds terrible in a way, but your customers are not all equal. Some customers are going to be more loyal than others. And some customers want to, like, they're brand loyalists. They want to buy more from you. They want to feel appreciated. So talking to your customers the same exact way, all your customers, whether they purchase one time or purchase 10 times, that's not a great thing to do either now or during the holiday season. Like as I just touched on before, make sure you're providing different messaging based on customer lifetime value. I'd
Yeah,
say second is assuming your customers understand everything. Just because you understand what's going on with your business and how your website works does not mean your customers do. And this is why you see certain questions come up on chat via email, is that you're just assuming these answers things are obvious. Quite often you got the returns and shipping questions. You have, will this fit me? Does this have, as I touched on before, does this have any like certain ingredients that I might be allergic to? Things like that. You have to make sure, I don't want to say like treat your customer like they're dumb, because they're not, but make sure you're providing that information available to them and talk to them like they're a human. Don't talk down to them. And third, one of the things I see a lot of newer brands doing is making the business about themselves and making their, like, continuously talking about themselves as a brand and why and how great they are. People want to know who you are, but they're on the website to buy something for themselves. They're not on the website to make you happy. That's not their goal. So
yeah.
you want to make sure you're focusing on the customer. You're focusing on, okay, yes, this is who I am, but this is why I'm here to serve you.
Yeah, I love that. And I've seen way too many companies having their unique value proposition. We've been in the business since 1982 or whatever.
Yeah,
Nobody
cool.
cares about that. Yeah,
Yeah,
next.
exactly.
Yeah,
I had another one that I keep on blanking on it as soon as it comes to my head. I need more coffee is what I need. It's still early
yeah,
here.
it's still early there, exactly. So, Kelly, regarding and this is the question that I'm asking all our guests over here. What are your hacks to grow as an individual? So, as we are here at the e-commerce growth show, maybe you have some tips regarding how you achieve growth for yourself as an individual. How you and which is your main KPI to show that you live a fulfilled life.
Yeah. So first off, take care of your body, take care of your mental health. I have my master's in social work, so this kind of comes naturally to me. But make
Mhm.
sure you're taking care of yourself. You're especially in a time when this is a pandemic. This is not a typical time for any of us, and things are going to get more stressful as we move into the holiday season. So make sure you're leaving time to process, to just relax for a moment and take a deep breath. Make sure you're getting enough sleep. That's a really big one as well for, one of my little growth hacks. And of course, exercise is also important. My husband and I go for a walk every single day. It's like about a mile or so, but it's just getting out of the house and getting away from the computer and thinking about something else for once. I read a lot. I read both a lot of business books and like personal growth kind of books and just like
Mhm.
fun leisure fiction novels just to switch things up as well.
Yeah.
Um, so constantly trying to learn whatever I can, continuing my growth that way, but also slipping in some fun reads in there as well. One of my absolute favorite books is Atomic Habits by James Clear. It's one of those books that you can read like at beginning of the year. Just start your year by reading that book. It puts you in a really good position. It's a good reminder that habits form by making small changes. That like if you're trying to get into the habit of working out, one of the first things that you can do is just lay out your clothes to make it really easy for you to get ready to start working out in the morning or whenever it's going to be. Like remove the barriers that currently exist to allow you to start forming those habits. But most importantly, it's the small changes you make along the way that really add up. Same thing with CRO as we loop back together.
Yeah. Great. So, Kelly, thanks a lot for being today with us. Where can people reach out to you if they need you? And also, I added this link over
Oh
here
yeah.
to thetaproom.com.
Yeah. So
Uh,
you can find us at thetaproom.com. My email is kelly at thetaproom.com. You can also find me on Twitter, very, very active, at KVLLY. And you can find me on LinkedIn as Kelly Vaughn. I have a little beer emoji in front of my name.
Excellent. So, Kelly, thanks a lot again for being today with us, and thanks all of you for watching us, and all the best from Bucharest.
Thank you.